All right, Shalom. First off, and give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem Kakadash. Want to give double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and elders, great millstone, and a sincere Shalom to the Ankim out here that's doing again, pushing his work in truth and in sincerity. Want to go in this video, okay, about the danger of, not caring about the past, okay? Um, we had a guy come by our camp this past Saturday. He was saying that he was into comedic science, you know, and you know, eh, he wanted to try to, get his point across, and then, say that he's not, trying to debate, you know, but he wanted to, let his thoughts, and what he feel or what he believe be known, okay, and you know, the guy was confused, um he would say that he don't believe in the Bible, but then he believe in the Bible, you know. And it got to the point where he said that he don't care about the past. He cares about right here, right now, the present day. Okay. And for one, it's like why are you into comedic science if you know only care about today? Do you want to go into all this, Egyptian, stuff, you know, or ancient Egyptian, you know, and talk about the Book of the Dead and all that stuff, right? But the point of this video is the danger of not caring about the past, because that's something that he said, okay, and um, it sparked the you know uh inspiration to do this video, okay. Um, on ChatGPT, right? Uh, it says, according to the teachers of Great Millstone, saying I don't care about the past, I only care about the present is considered spiritually dangerous because they emphasize that the Bible repeatedly points God's people back to history as a way of understanding his judgments, promises, and prophecies. Okay? History teaches Yahweh Shemel Shah's patterns. GMS often teaches that the Most High deals with nations and individuals according to recurring patterns. By studying biblical history, believers can recognize those same patterns today. Okay, Romans 15:4, for whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Okay, and it says, 1 Corinthians 10 and 11, now all these things happen unto them for examples, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. Okay, it says, Paul says Israel's history was preserved specifically to instruct those living in the last days. Okay, and we're in the last days today. Now, a lot of people don't understand what the last days is, right? You want to know what the present day is, right? The present times that we in. Present times are we living in the last days of this world, this age, okay? The world as you know it, okay? Babylon the Great, which is America, okay? Um, in this present day, we gotta work, we gotta go, pay all these bills, okay? Just to try to make a living. Okay, and why? How did it get to this point? Why is it like this? Okay, you're sweeping a lot of different things under the rug when you just say, you don't care about the past. Okay, you're allowing the so-called white man to just get away with all the atrocities that he has done, throughout history. When you say that, okay. And when we talk about in the past, the times that you know we dealing with today, right? This is a lot of, because this guy was an older Jake, you know. I'm talking about, 50, late 50s, 60s. Okay, well, he looked like it, you know. But you date 60, you know, 70 years back. Times was hard. Times was rough. That was a present day, right? So you mean to tell me all of those, your whole life, okay, that got you to where you at right now, it didn't matter. You just care about where you at today, and a lot of people, you know, they like he said, I don't want to have a victim mindset. Well, we are victims of, you know, of wickedness that was done to us, okay, and forgetting about what was done to us, right? Is allowing our enemies, to create history of how they want. They want to make their own story. You just want to just say, you know what, just go ahead, believe them. That's not how history went down. Okay, and the Bible, you know, it addresses that. Okay, it addresses the real history. Okay, this is the real story. Okay, you want to talk about Kemetic and the Egyptians and stuff like that, right? When what made Egypt great, okay? It was Israelites, okay? And a lot of people want to look at every black person as a, you know, as if they are the same people, you know, and that's where a lot of the confusion comes into play for a lot of people, you know. So you in this present day, you look at somebody who's just black, and then you end up there trying to you trying to show them some type of endurance, but they don't look at you, as the same. Okay, but that's a hatred that's been going on for years. Okay, racism don't only have to do with white and black. Okay, so sometimes it's black and black. Okay, or black looking, so-called black looking. Okay, so-called white. It says forgetting history leads to repeat and rebellion. Israel repeatedly forgot what God had done and turned away from him. Judges 2 and 10 through 12 describes a generation that knew not the Lord and quickly fell into idolatry. Okay, and that's what the what's going on today. These people they don't know the Lord. So they in a lot of our people are in idolatry. Okay, Psalm 106 and 13 says they soon forgot His works. GMS often uses these passages to argue that forgetting history results in spiritual blindness. The Bible commands remembrance. Scripture frequently tells God's people to remember his past acts. Deuteronomy 32 and 7, that's what I was going to get. Okay. I'm going to keep going. Ecclesiasticus 44 and 1 from the Apocrypha. Okay. Let us know now praise famous men and our fathers that begat us, right? So we got to realize who we come from. We come from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Okay. The people who are Egyptians don't come from that lineage. Okay. They're not of the chosen seed or the chosen line. Okay. It says prophecy is rooted in history. GMS teaches that understanding ancient kingdoms such as Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo Persia, Greece, and Rome is essential for interpreting end time prophecies. In books like Daniel and Revelation, ignoring history in their view makes it difficult to identify how prophecy unfolds. Okay? Gotta know the history to understand the mystery. Remembering judgment produces wisdom. Okay, the destruction of the flood, Sodom and Gomorrah, Jerusalem, and ancient Babylon are presented as warnings. Second Peter 2 and 6 says Sodom and Gomorrah were made an example unto those that after should live ungodly. Okay, Luke 17 and 28 through 30 compares the days before Yahweh Shah returned to the days of Lot. Okay, from a GMS perspective, someone who says I only care about today risk ignoring the lessons Yahweh Bashem Yahushua intentionally preserved. Okay, they would argue that without understanding what God has done in the past, a person cannot properly understand why Israel was judged, right? Why are we under the curses today? All right, according to Deuteronomy 28, how God deals with nations, what current world events may signify prophetically, and why repentance is necessary. Okay, so continuing on. Okay, this is just checking Deuteronomy 32 and 7. It says, "Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he will shew you, thy elders, and they will tell you. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people, and it says Jacob is the lot of his inheritance." Okay, and we're not in our original setting, our our land, right? Where is our land, right? We want to talk about these, today, right? Why are we, in the hood, the ghettos, okay, displaced? Why, all these people, this people believe in this God, this people believe in that God. Okay, one person say that they black, this other person say that they not this, you know, all this confusion out here, you know, and you don't want to deal with where's this delusions come into play at, okay? And you got to be able to ask, our forefathers, our people who, been around, okay, for generations ahead of us, to say, okay, well, how was it when you was growing up? What was going on when, during your time, you know, because the things change, you know, like you got music nowadays, right, that people listen to. And you might hear this beat and you be like, hold on, man, that beat came from something during my time when I grew up. And guess what? That beat that grew up in your time could have been from somebody else's time from before. It came from somewhere. Okay? Some people want to preserve their history. Okay, they want to preserve what they have because history is something that's supposed to be precious. Okay? You forget about the past. Now this just using the beat is an example. This beat that somebody, that made from years ago originally, okay? You just, let these people just come out the blue and just make all this money off of your music. And you just say, you know what? I ain't worried about, the future. I ain't worried about the past. I'm just worried about right now, you know? And you lose out on a lot, you know? Years from now, you're you could have more money because set yourself up or what from what you did, today, you know? But some people they just worried about their dollar bill and getting what they got to get right now. You know, and that mindset is off. Okay, how can you trust somebody that got that mindset, man? You know. So with that, the history is important, man. You know, according to the Bible. So with that, Lord willing, this is edifying. I want to say shalom until next time. Who's gonna make you feel like I do?